Hello, everybody. Welcome to the China Summit for another session. This session will talk about the future of Chinese outbound tourism and the demand in the demand structure changes for the future Chinese outbound tourism after COVID-19. My name is Professor Dr. Wolfgang Georg Arlt. I have the honor to be the China Summit ambassador, and I'm also the CEO of COTRI, which is China Outbound Tourism Research Institute. So with me, I have 4 experts. You will hear more about in a few minutes, but just to introduce, so we have Dr. Berenice Pendzialek, based in Hamburg. She is an expert on digital marketing and Chinese outbound tourism. We have Ghazi Aksya, who is the CEO of Landways International, based in Tirana. We have Richard Adam, who is the CEO of Trend Transfer and based at the moment in Munich, I think, or in
That's
the
correct,
region.
yes.
And we have Dr. Rudy Snippe, who is the CEO of Stochastic World and is based somewhere not too far from Amsterdam, I think. So what we will do is I will start with a short presentation, just a few slides to set the scene, and then we will have a question for each of the panelists, and then we will have a panel discussion. So the session is supposed to last for about 1 hour. So I hope it will be interesting for everybody. And also let me add, so if you have any questions, so we have agreed that on Friday, on the last day of the China Summit, there will be a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, just send them to the organizers at BUZZ Expo, and we will try to answer the questions on the last day. Okay, with this, thanks everybody for joining, and let me start to do the presentation. And for that, I have to do some little technical wizardry here. So let's see if that works. So you should see now my presentation. And so China's outbound tourism in the 2020s. So we will look at the changing demands at the moment, but of course we also look a bit forward. So very briefly, what is COTRI? My institute is 16 years old and is working exclusively for the Chinese outbound market. And we have done a lot of work in the past, of course, for companies and organizations all over the world. One thing we are doing, we have an online training called CTT, China Tourism Training, in cooperation with Hong Kong Polytech University. We also just published a new book about welcoming the new Chinese outbound tourists. And some of the panelists have also been so kind to be contributing to this book. About myself, just to say, well, I've been around in China for more than 4 decades, and I have been working ever since with the topic of China and tourism. So where are we today? So this is the second week of October, and last week, in the first week of October, we had 600 million Chinese trips, domestic trips. So you can see these pictures they were taking on the 1st and 2nd of October 2020, and you can see on the right hand side this is Hangzhou, Dongjiang Hangzhou Eastern Railway Station, full of people, the Great Wall full of people, and a park in Beijing, I think, full of people. Most people don't even wear a mask anymore. So the one place on earth where tourism is really back to normal is China. And we could see that even so 600 million is less than the 780 million it was last year, domestic flights have increased by 10% because the Chinese, this time, when they had to travel domestic, they went as far away from Beijing or Shanghai as possible to the more exotic places. And we can see that the reasons why the Chinese have been traveling outbound have not changed, and all surveys show that the Chinese are very eager to come back to the international market once visa are there, air connections there, and of course the trust in the safety of travel. So domestically, this already has happened, and we are back to normal in on the domestic level. So where will they travel to? They will travel, of course, to the neighboring countries, to Asia Pacific region, and to Europe. So you can see on the right-hand side some information from a very recent survey from Dragon Trail, and APEC, Asia Pacific region, and Europe are the two main areas of interest where the Chinese want to travel to. And you can see that from another part of this research that there is about 20% of the Chinese say, I will travel outbound again as soon as it becomes possible. And there's another 40% saying, within next year, certainly I will travel outbound again if it becomes possible. And about 40% say, wow, wait and see. I'm not sure yet if it is safe enough or if I really want to travel abroad next year. So, which means we might in 2021 not really come back to the 170 million outbound travelers we had in 2019, but still we will have, assuming that we find the vaccine and we find a solution to the COVID crisis, that there will be more than 100 million travelers from China again. In the last quarter, so from July to September, we can see that there was about 1 million Chinese who crossed the border. Half of them, or more than half, probably went to Macau, because Macau is the only place where Chinese can travel at the moment without having to go into quarantine when they come back. And this is, of course, the main hindering point. There are many destinations which are open again to Chinese travelers, but who wants to go on a later trip when you have to go 2 weeks into quarantine when you come back. So in Europe, we can see a few thousand Chinese traveling within Europe, because if they are already in the Schengen area as students or as expats, since June 15th, they can travel within Schengen. So COVID-19 has changed the way Chinese will travel internationally in the new decade. So they will have to develop trust in the offer, but also they will have the need more than before to feel embedded, accepted, being part of the family, so to say, so that they can have greater satisfaction in what they are offered. So, and satisfied guests will provide the base for more successful marketing in the form of recommendation marketing with Warm Square, which means word of mouth and word of mouse, computer mouse, using KOCs, which is means not KOLs, which was key opinion leaders. Now KOCs is key opinion customers, and in the social media, user-generated content, which will be much more successful than static social media marketing, which more and more is seen by the Chinese consumers as what it is, advertisement propaganda. So there's no need to go back to last year, because we left the old times with the discussions about over-tourism, with the obvious environmental degradation, which was caused by tourism, and in many cases unhappy staff, not really happy with Chinese customers who are seen as demanding and not taking care and not tipping, and also unhappy local people and with rather low margins. So what we will see is that the satisfaction will be the core KPI to achieve better results. So we will need simply a new paradigm, because we saw that the very success of our industry, where we moved the number of trips 5 times from 1980 to 2019, so has made a mockery of the idea of hospitality, which in German, I'm in German, we call this Gastfreundschaft, friendship with guests, and not much of this has been left in the mass tourism. And we could see that there's a juggernaut running over local nature, local culture, diversity, serendipity, nowhere to be found anymore, and impacting the satisfaction levels of all stakeholders involved. So at the beginning of this year, UNWTO still said tourism is the most resilient economic sector. How wrong can you be? So we have seen that you take out one CAC, we just remove mobility, and the whole system breaks down. So that our success story has not been followed up with enough management activities, and this is what we find now, and hopefully we come to a new tourism paradigm. And you can see the paradigm triangle we developed, so where you on the base you have what you have. So obviously there's no mountain climbing on the Maldives, and there is no beach tourism in Mongolia, so you have to start with what you have. But then by learning what does the source market, and here we talk about China, needs, and by increasing IT knowledge and using all the different opportunities digitalization is offering today, and by adapting the product, you can get to the steps of trust, embeddedness, and satisfaction you need, so that everybody is happier, the tourists, but also the staff, and also the locals, and also bigger margins for the company. So how do you achieve this? By simply trying harder to understand the Chinese guests in their diversity, so that young people from big cities are different from older people from smaller cities, that young families want different things, and young senior couples going on a country trip, and so on. So we can see that in the last years, more and more money has been spent on social media marketing, but if you see the results, they are hard to measure, and the more voices are there, the harder it is to create really an effort. So if you have key opinion customers, so people telling their friends their real opinion that they like something, and of course, if you do this with live streaming, which is the latest fashion, this is much more convincing. So there's a program called Advantage Tourism, and which is trying to help destinations and companies with this COVID-19 recovery and resilience program, which is trying to advance tourism to find answers to the challenges. Climate change, of course, is not going away. So once we get out of the COVID-19 crisis, climate change is still there to greet us, over tourism, seasonality, and so on. So we will simply have to add qualitative key performance indicators to the quantitative key performance indicators we had until now. And so this project is done by COTRI together with associates, and if you look at the list, you find that the main cooperators are also happily today on our panel. So let me finish by pointing out that this China Summit is done by BUZZ.travel in cooperation with the Guangzhou International Travel Fair, which is hopefully happening in the flesh from 25th to 27th of February next year. And within that, on the 26th of February, there will be a China Outbound Tourism Conference, which we hope will be the first opportunity for Chinese and international tourism experts and the tourism industry to come together in a non-virtual event to discuss the future of China's outbound tourism. And you can see on the left-hand side, there is this one of the major projects in China, the China Greater Bay Area, bringing together Hong Kong, Macau, and the main parts of Guangdong province, so which will make this a very important part of the development of China and also of the tourism development. So I hope that we will all be able to meet February 26th next year in Guangzhou. With this, I want to finish my presentation, and I hope it gives us a starting point. And so now we should be all back, yes, to the discussion. So as I said, if you have questions, just send us an email and we will try to answer this. So with this little introduction, let me start talking to my dear friends and colleagues from the panel. And maybe ladies first, let me start with Berenice. Berenice, we have been working together for a long time. So you were with COTRI from the very beginning, and now you're an independent consultant with a lot of experience, especially in the field of retail, of shopping. And so one of the things many people have been saying is that one of the results of COVID-19 and one of the changes in the demand structure is that the Chinese customers, the Chinese travelers, are not so much focused on shopping as they were maybe in the earlier years. So can you tell us, what is your take on this? Mm-hmm. Do you see that this is a that they do less shopping, or is it that they change in what they are buying? So what is your observation, especially and you also your forecast for the time when hopefully at the end of the year or next spring the Chinese tourists come back to visit us?
Hi, hello. Thanks, Wolfgang, for introducing me. My name is Berenice Pendzialek, and yes, I work in COTRI for a while. I was a general manager. I'm originally from Mexico, and I'm now based in Germany. I'm a freelance consultant, and well, I had the opportunity to help companies and organizations to cater for Chinese tourists and to attract Chinese tourists to their businesses. Lately, I've been specializing in travel retail and duty-free. I had the opportunity to work with a big duty-free chain here based in Hamburg. And yeah, well, I would like to draw on what you asked me. I think it's an interesting and exciting times we are living, definitely. And yeah, about the trends that we are seeing unfolding, I can start definitely with the changes in the consumer habits. What are we are looking for, or what started during this crisis from Corona, right? And yeah, first of all, the stronger consumer preference to use online buying channels. Before, I think it was when we started with our customers, we were concentrating, okay, how can we have the points of sales ready for Chinese? But now if we see, I mean, with the pandemic, we couldn't visit stores where Chinese tried to do everything online. And I think this is something that it's going to stay in the following years, right? They're going to continue be keen of doing e-commerce and mobile commerce or online streaming, like you told before. And I think for us in outside China, this means to be in these channels where Chinese are intensively looking for their products. And one of them definitely is WeChat or Xiaohongshu, like this social commerce platforms. So that's going to be interesting to see, because, well, a recent study from McKinsey showed that 50% increase of the use of these social media and online mobile commerce platforms. So I think this ecosystem to go in this direction is going to be extremely interesting and important for the companies nowadays. And I can think about, for example, of 3PD, for example, here in Germany, which had launched a WeChat mini program recently in September. Before, they were like receiving all the customers in Frankfurt airport, but with the COVID pandemic was not possible to do this click and collect section. And now they started to actively target customers via WeChat program. And I think that's something that we, in the retail section, we also have to continue thinking and adapting how to go in this direction, like more online. And besides going online, we have to think about other changes in perceptions. Like you said, well, Chinese are well known from their luxury consumption. I think even the forecast before the pandemic, we were talking about that half of the luxury consumption market is going to be done by Chinese by the end of 2025. And well, we saw at the beginning of the pandemic that this consumption from consumption's conspicuous spending went from conscious spending. I mean, during the pandemic, there was needs just for the essential products, from the essential things that needed to be used for the everyday pandemic life. But nowadays that we see that the outbreaks in China are going away, and that domestic traveling is picking up momentum, we see again that luxury consumption is there. I mean, a big example are the duty-free shops in Sanya, like all this. I think we are aware of the articles that in the media that between July and August, it was amazing. It was a shopping spree for Chinese tourists over there, and we can see that the liberalization done by the Chinese government in order to boost a little bit of this domestic consumption is working somehow. And what brings us for us in the international world is that Chinese have an opportunity, of course, of getting into these luxury products. And it's not just about the product itself, but we have to think as retailers outside China about how to do this shopping experience, something like an event. How can we go away from this product, from this material thing, but also to think about, okay, we need to cater, we need to understand who are our customers, we need to know how they are shopping, what channels are using, and of course we need to communicate more than just the product itself. So how it's going to continue, I mean, we see these changes, luxury shopping. I personally think that it's going to continue being an important part of the consumption of Chinese abroad, but we also see other behaviors. For example, local craftsmanship, that's something that we have to bet on. And definitely local products, local customs that are related to products. We need to continue stressing on this kind of messages and products, and not just talk about the product, but talk about what is around it and what can we do in event management or event selling.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this insight. And I think, yes, this is also fitting very well with the overall theme we said before, that it's an event, it is an experience more than just the product, and also the local products. So the word authenticity becoming more important. So, and that we offer things you cannot just buy online or in Sanya. And this is certainly I would fully agree, the challenge we have. So talking about challenges, Gazi, so you are the boss and the founder of one of the biggest companies in the Balkans, working with Chinese customers, mostly with group tours. So what we see domestically in China, there has been a big increase in self-drive tours and lots of people saying, I don't want to travel with strangers. I want to travel within my family or my group of people. Trip.com is saying customized tours is a big trend. So from your perspective, so when we have this standard package tours versus customized tours versus FITs, so how do you see the future of Chinese outbound tourism, and how is your company reacting to this developments?
Thank you for inviting me to the BUZZ China Summit panel. And personally, I think it's a big question mark on everything around us. So what we did after the COVID started, and what we're doing on a daily basis, is we're analyzing the elements of our business model on every day, because the situation is so fluid that, you know, situations happening can affect what you choose to do in offering to the markets that we serve. So the first thing we did, and what we're doing on a daily basis, is we are trying to stay in contact with all our Chinese partners, with our partners like COTRI, in order to understand the business sentiment and what the future customers will want to do once borders open, and to validate what you have found out, that 20% of the Chinese customers wants to travel once the floodgates open, and 40% they want to travel in 2021. Because situations in every country are changing, so that will affect what we offer to the partners. So we as a company, what we are doing is we are keeping in line and in touch, both with our partners in China in order to understand what they want, and the partners which make up the ecosystem of the tour operators, which is us in the center, which are the CEOs in a way of organizing and connecting everything, the border control, the governments, all the stakeholders, the hotels, the tour operators, the restaurants, the coach companies. And we try to understand whether they really are on the same page with us, and whether they can implement what we decide to do jointly. And I cannot stress more the word jointly, because it's all of us that really have to have the same kind of philosophy in order to implement a successful outcome of our strategy. So even before, although last year we clocked in around 2,000 groups in the Balkans, and that was 20% from China, but 80% from other Asian countries, we never have done a copy-paste approach. And I want to stress this, because although we had series, we could have 60 series for one particular product, we always took care so that we really understood the demands of the clients we have on each tour. And I think it reflected in the satisfaction rates and the royalty of all the partners we have in China, and of course in other Asian countries. So we really listen to what the partners want. We really ask for elements which they were not 100% satisfied, and concentrated in things we had a control over. But in things we had no control over, like government policies, although we tried to interfere diplomatically, but things we didn't have a control over, I think we could not do much, but at least we try to build, let's say, a way and how to make the best out of this unpleasant situations. So what I feel, and what my team feels, and all the partners around the Balkans feel, and I'll have a 30-minute presentation on the future of the Balkans, and so I have some very selected and key partners which will be part of my panel, which will be on the 14th of October in the BUZZ China Summit. Will address that particular issue. So what I feel is that once the borders open, and once there is safety in what the Chinese travelers are feeling, I think they'll start traveling, and they'll start traveling in groups, smaller groups, families, groups where they feel more comfortable from the sanitation and safety point of view. And they want to travel to areas where they feel respected, they feel respectful, where they feel that, you know, the countries, the operators receiving them, they feel grateful that this particular Chinese clients or customers choose this particular countries and this particular companies, because it goes a long way. They really do not forget the way that Landways International reacted to their needs. So we didn't react. We proactively addressed their needs in February, where they were canceling all the trips. And we managed as a company to have zero cancellation fees, which they could not believe, because by protocol and by agreement, they had to pay what they had committed. But because we have great partners on the other hand, and we convinced them that this is a time where we could show professionalism, brotherhood, and we could be in for them. And we were, I believe, one of the first partners who donated, and I want to stress the word donated, masks and sanitary equipments to all the Chinese partners, regardless of the volume they're doing with us. So I think this is something which they don't forget easily. They have shown it. We keep in touch with them, and we are doing products which cater to them. So one thing we did, which is actually very difficult because of the fluid situation of safety and open of the borders and closure of the borders in European countries, is we went on a scale of safety destinations. I mean, because we don't serve on the Balkans, but we serve Europe at large. So we were approaching them and saying that, why don't we work on more products around these countries, which is like more safety approach. And they've been very proactive. So I think we're waiting. We are revising the products based on all the elements I mentioned before. And I think we're ready to be in the game once it's open. And again, it's we're trying with all our partners in the region, trying to be in the press, trying to convince them. We have been in trainings. We have been recommending COTRI trainings. We have been training them, as we have been training companies in China and in Asia on the new products, on the new, as I said, protocols being here. And I feel that there will be future in 2021. I cannot say how much, but this is an opportunity as well, I think, for us and for other companies in the game, for the solid companies in the game, because crisis should not be wasted. And as Warren Buffett said, crisis is a good thing, because when there is a tide, I think everybody swims in that. When we have this kind of situation and when the water goes down, it shows who is swimming naked. So I believe we're in that position where we have been cooperating with them. We'll be their advisors, not only their partners. And as I said, we're ready for, being in the game once things lies and the new reality is there.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And certainly, I can recommend the session on the 14th. The Balkans have been have been the most successful area in Europe in terms of growth numbers in 2017, 18, 19. Most of the countries in the Balkans had 3-digit growth numbers, 100% and more. So this is a very interesting region, and a region where many Chinese customers felt, of course, also thanks to the services of companies like Landways, felt really welcome and happy with the services they were offered. So we have been looking at the perspective of the tour operators. So Richard, if I can ask you, you have been working for a long time with destinations, having run DMOs and NTOs. So from a so what we know and what we are expecting about the changing demand structure of Chinese tourists, from a destination point of view, what do you think are the most important activities which destinations should do now, so to be well prepared for the future wave of Chinese outbound tourism? And many people have been saying this would be like the famous tomato ketchup bottle. You shake, and at the moment nothing comes out, and nothing comes out, and then you shake again, and whoosh, all comes out at once. And I think this is something where we can expect that certainly in some areas we will have, when tourism starts again, a huge number of what's called revenge tourists coming all at the same time. So Richard, what's your take on that?
Thanks, Wolfgang, and thank you for having me here. I'm very happy to share my views here. Let me take 10 seconds from where I come from, because that explains my perspective. I'm literally raised in the hospitality industry and had until middle management jobs in a couple of countries and continents. Before university and after university, I was with one of the big global strategy consultancies, which has shaped my mindset a little bit in terms of strategic thinking. But then again, I wasn't too happy to see that the world has no lack of strategy documents and PowerPoint charts. The world has a lack of execution and ownerships. And since then, I'm involved in destination development, destination structuring or restructuring from all kind of perspectives: strategy, investment, visitor experience, product, service, and in particular, organizational and sustainable business development, Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and currently even in China, which is fairly complicated due to COVID-19. This is where I come from. Now I'm involved in China outbound tourism since they have introduced the Schengen visa, which is quite some time, and I have seen the certain patterns of change. Originally, that was a completely unstructured market, and we had these group tours that has shaped the image of people first time outside the country with different behaviors than people have seen before from tourists, but that has changed. Today we have three groups, and that's I think is important. We still have this group market, which is still growing simply for the size of the market, but we have this experienced travelers in the growing middle class, which is probably the biggest market right now, and we have these experienced high-come travelers. And of course, that works completely different than in the old days. But what hasn't changed, and this is at least from my experience and observation, China outbound is still predominantly a B2B outgoing market. It's a Chinese approach to have control on the entire value chain. And basically, 10 conglomerates control the outbound market. Even the players and the little operators may change their name. It's about 10 or 12 companies behind that pulling the strings. And even if you see what's happening there, even in China, large investors, H&A, Huazhu Hotels, Xinjiang Hotels, Wanda, Venki, they invest in China in destinations, and they invest in other parts of the world. So the changes to your questions, what's new, we have to distinguish what is new and what is still highly relevant from Chinese outbound market. Two things for me we have to differentiate here. Chinese tourists are just as human people than other tourists. So a couple of things we have in common. It takes a lot of money to stimulate a tourist to come to a destination for one time, right? And if you're not able to send him home as an advocate or as a repeat visitor, you will not have a sustainable business. As a matter of fact, your business will die out. So every destination, every tourism business, every hotel has a healthy mix of retention and new business. So what makes people come to a destination in the first place? It's not promotion, it's advocacy, and it's swarm intelligence, and in the digital world even more so. If you send somebody back home and he's not happy, you cannot compensate with promotional money, not with the highest budget on the planet. What we have to find out in China is that they have their own microcosmos of digital space, Weibo, WeChat, all the other things, and normally your Western destinations don't control this. They don't even control their other social space, because social promotion is different than social advocacy. The destination, what is typically Chinese, and what is probably new, is that now we have, due to COVID-19, we have less crowds. People want to travel, but they don't move in crowds. And with the pattern we have seen from the past, this will change. We will open new territory, which is a big opportunity for new destinations who have not been involved in this, outside on the countryside, less in crowded cities. But the consequence is also, by open new territory, that we have new forms of packaging, we have new forms of products, and we have new forms of supply chain and logistics. This will shape completely new, as the mass, the group tourism will no longer exist in the way, at least until we have a vaccine. People want to travel and they want to have new forms, but new forms need us to adapt in terms of packaging and logistics. The next thing is, of course, people want to have trust in hygiene and health protocols. They want to have that in all over the world. But it amazes me when you see today hospitality companies campaigning with their hygiene and health protocols. Nobody travels to see hygiene and health protocols. There has to be an experience on top to be a driver for visit a destination. Some people bring out the message, well, if you come here, you don't get sick. I don't think that's a good driving force for being attractive. You have to be an experience on top. And experience is the key word, because this is what tourists take home, and this is what makes them share and be in their neighborhood, on their social networks, and makes them being an advocate, giving them an experience. And here, this is probably this is my final statement here. The Chinese tourist, more than other tourists, is based on trust. So what does that mean? People like to be treated respectfully. People like to be seen culturally sensitive. So if you have Chinese-speaking services, Chinese-speaking material, but then you respect them, which is basically helpful. But then again, that's why we have this B2B dominance here from the distribution side, because Chinese people go to other Chinese people when they are looking for their holiday planning. So we have to build trust also with the distributor. And in the Western world, normally the tourism is seen, if you make big enough promotion, then tourism happens. To me, that's ridiculous. You can't spend your anti-advertising money and make big billboards on Tiananmen Square and whatever. It doesn't stimulate one tourist. But if you have a trusted relationship to B2B outbound tour operators for a long time. That helps leverage your business. And to build that relationship, two things are important: provide the service, be reliable, and make them have their profit share. Chinese operators, more than others, have a DNA in negotiating, have a seven stands for being commercially astute. They want to have their profit too, and that's where they send the people. So I think if you accept these couple of principles, you're in good shape for the wave to come.
Okay, thank you very much. So I recently put up a post on LinkedIn where I was so bold to make a distinction saying Western people, so very generalizing, Western people, for them the product of tourism is the memory of memorable moments. That's what we are selling, the memory of memorable moments. Whereas for Chinese and maybe some other Asian tourists, it is the proof of memorable moments, because you want to share these memorable moments with your peer group. You want to show your photos and your videos and your live streaming on WeChat to your friends. And what you're saying is going in this direction. So what I heard from Berenice, from Ghazi, and Richard, from you, it all goes around the words of trust, of experience, and of uniqueness, and of satisfaction. So finally coming to Rudy, so these are all very good values, very good goals you want to achieve. But of course, well, looking at the last 10 years of tourism development, I don't think that we have been that successful, especially for the Chinese market, with that. So if this is the new way we all agree we have to do things, the direction we have to move into, how do we get out of this trap that everybody's saying, oh, let's hope things go normal again as soon as possible, and then we go back to all the old mistakes we have been doing before? So how can we make sure that this opportunity, that there is a push and a wake-up call and time to do things in a new way? How can we make sure that this push is not petering out once the crisis is not so severe anymore? Rudy, what do you think? How can we help to have this happening?
Thank you, Wolfgang, for inviting me, and thank you for the wonderful stories. So what I have to say is exactly in line with the other three speakers. There is no trick for innovation. So that is the 1, 2, 3 trick. That is for innovation. But I can tell you something about it. So some traps are. So the first trap is our language. So we are thinking via words, and the words, they have gotten their meaning in the past. So we are trying to create a new world with words from the past. So that is very, very difficult for us as a human being to think about something and we don't have words for it. So often when I do my job, I get the phrase, be concrete, but that is impossible because we don't have a language for it. Or this is nothing new, and that means that somebody is listening at it and think, oh, I know it already. But we try to create something new. And I help you as in this, when we look at organizations, and when you hear the story, it's about an organization is what we do. In our language, is what we do is what we are. So I'm a baker, so I'm baking bread. So I have to keep baking bread, otherwise I'm not a baker anymore. Or a library lends book, and I have to lend out books, otherwise I'm not a library. And it's based on stability. We are. And as we know now, the world is not stable at all. So we can't be in a stable paradigm. Otherwise, it's like when you are standing on a surfboard and it is on the grass, your environment is stable, so you can stay stable on the surfboard. But when you put it in the water, how you fell down. That's the same where we are now. So how to get a different mindset? First, to be aware of this. So I had to be aware of this concept of language, and that you have to try to find maybe a new language. Maybe you use Chinese language to understand Chinese. It's not strange, of course. And also in line what I heard before, it is not about what you are doing. It's about the value what you cause. It is about the interaction. Let's say when I play violin, it is not about that I play without mistakes. It is about if I moved or touched the audience, that I see tears in their eyes. So the tears in the eyes, that's the data, what I get, that I create enough value. But it is an interaction. It's not one way. It is the interaction, what is the value. And that's a total different way of thinking. So when it is about interaction in a library, I'm not lending books anymore, but I inspire people to read. Now my method, lending books, is only one. So inside of your company, you have a lot of possibilities, but you are kind of blind of it because of your language, and you are focused on stability. So when you stay out, or when you get out of your organization, sitting there and say, when people smile or when they have a wonderful time, what did I cause and how did I do it? So it is not about serving a coffee. The serving a coffee is just a method in order to cause something, to interact. And it is in line with all the other speakers, but you focus on organization is totally different. Also, the word organization, it's wonderful. An organization is just a method, but in our language, it is an entity. I'm working for an organization. That means I'm working for a method? No, the organization is just there too. And take it to another step. Everything in your organization will be automated. Everything will be automated what is repeatable. So think about your organization, what is repeatable and what doesn't have a challenge. So the thing what you can't automate it is the human touch point. So the human touch point is the interaction between you and your customer. And this interaction is the product. And that is for our mindset a little bit different, because the coffee was the product. No, the coffee is just a method. And this the interaction, what is the product? This is level 1. Level 2 is when I'm sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Suppose I'm alone. When I see this environment, I want to share it. So and especially also the Chinese people, they want to share. They want to share the luck that they can see this. So I call this horizontal value. So when I share it and somebody says at the same moment, oh, wonderful, it's even more wonderful for me. So it's not in the memory. No, it is also real time sharing in an audience. Maybe we are together and say at the same time, wow. And it is possible. It is possible via mobile, whatever. So think about it. When you create your products, when you create your services, it's not only about satisfaction. No, it has to be also, I want to share it. Now, look at it. I think this could help you a little bit to innovate.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, and this is certainly for Chinese, the moment of sharing is very, very important. And what do you think? I mean, what comes to my mind is simply what we talk about sightseeing. So we are looking at sites. So what is a site? So if you read travelogues from Goethe's time, people would, in every city they visit, they would visit the asylum where the crazy people were, and they would visit the prison to learn about how the prison was organized. These were major sites. Try to do this today, probably they lock you in for that. And now we think sites are things which are made of stone, the cathedrals and stuff, and maybe now the shopping malls. Whereas if you read and if you talk with Chinese customers, a lot of them say the most important things are the people. And so we have been discussing with tour operators. Okay, how about you do a tour where you just you create meetings, maybe for music lovers with musicians, or for sport people. In Spain, you visit, you meet a torero, and you meet somebody who won a medal at Olympic Games 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and you meet a sailor who can, and you can share with them maybe the experience he takes you on the sailing boat, but only just maybe just have lunch and talk to each other, and of course have photos and videos and show your friends, wow, look, I met this guy in 1966, he won a silver medal at the Olympic Games. So that people are visiting a family and cooking with mama a dish and stuff. Especially with the groups getting smaller, you can do these things. Of course, you can't do this with 45 people. And with more ability of speaking a common language, you can do this much more easily. So this is something where I think you can see that as long as you think sightseeing is about looking at stones, you're fixed to this. And once you come to the point, okay, what are people interested in? And not only Chinese people, but maybe Chinese people a bit more than others. So the life of other people, of course, then a whole new world opens up. So
this between has the interaction between the stones and you. So maybe it's the story of the stones. That is your interaction, and not looking at stones.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, if you go to a big cathedral, it is impressive, of course, but it's not the only thing. If you look what people are really doing, it's not the only thing people are looking at. So let me open the discussion and from on the base of what we have been saying. So let me ask a simple question: how optimistic or how pessimistic are you? And as all of us are based in Europe, maybe let's talk about Europe. For the development of tourism, and let's look at the next 5 years or even 10 years, so not just the next few months. So let's assume that sometime in a few months or half a year or whatever, we are out of this cage of COVID-19. And certainly Chinese will travel for sure to the neighboring countries, to Vietnam and Thailand and South Korea. There's no doubt about this. But talk about Europe, where you do have to sit 10 hours in an airplane. So how optimistic or how pessimistic are you about the development of Chinese outbound tourism, let's say in the next 5 years or so? And maybe, Berenice, you can start.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm an optimist, actually. I'm looking forward to the following years. I think you mentioned already to take advantage of this crisis. I think about these sustainability components that can play a key role in the future. I mean, now we are seeing also for the consumer perspective how people are changing to healthier lifestyles, or they're looking forward to local brands, or like many are calling patriotic brands, but local brands, or like integrate these sustainability components. So I think that's going to be interesting in the following years to see how the industry is integrating these components, and hopefully the consumers keep these lifestyles, or like this pattern in the lifestyle from consumption and everyday changes. But yeah, well, I'm positive. I cannot come up with a number like it is, but I think consumption is going to be there, and we are going to be shaping new experiences and go a little bit more just beyond product and things that we can touch, but a little bit more philosophical things behind what is tourism experience that make us all so happy.
Gazi.
I think the word pessimist is not part of my vocabulary. So
I know that.
I'm an optimist by nature, but try to put more reality check and logics into my approach. I think that the next 5 years will be a boom for Chinese tourism and for tourism in the world. And I base this on 2 facts. First is the universal human desire to travel and to interact, and that we have seen that we know how to rebound and to get back, and how to have resilience built into us. And secondly is because the Chinese market in particular is such a huge market that we have really tapped into only the iceberg. So the internal developments make a much more for a beautiful business case for all of us. The question is whether we are ready to address that.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, just to share one foresight. So in China, a couple of colleagues have been saying that now we have about 11 or 12% of the Chinese having a passport, but that within the next 5-6 years, this will grow to 20% of the Chinese. So almost double again the market. So there's another 150 million Chinese waiting for their first outing beyond maybe Hong Kong, Macau, where you don't need a passport. So yes, so I think the market is there, but of course we have to make sure that we can offer the right products and offer new places and new products, because Europe has, before the virus, Europe had been losing market share. So we have still been growing, but we had, for the total market, Europe had been losing out to new places like Africa and even South America. So there is work to be done. It's not automatically. So Richard, what is your idea?
Well, I'm very enthusiastic that once there is a vaccine, tourism industry will be the world's biggest industry again. Yes. Simply for the fact that it expresses freedom, the need to see new things, new experience, social interaction, more than any other activity. So to me, there is always a bright tourism future. Having said that, there will be some learning out of this COVID-19 experience, which is that people will be more conscious about health issues. Do I need this? They will be more conscious about climate change. What purchase will reward the best carbon footprint? There will be different in consumer and spending behavior. And what also is, in particular, looking for China, we have to also consider that the boom that China has grown to the world's biggest source market is that they wanted to get out of the country to see new things over the last 20 years, right? They wanted to buy brands because they didn't have any brands. What we see today is that they have increasingly their own brands, which are rising in quality. Look at the car industry,
yes,
even in consumer products, and also in tourism. What is coming within China in developed tourism areas and destinations is mind-blowing. So they will discover their own country because there is a lot of things going on. There will still be international travel, but then you have to be sure that you provide excellent value, you provide excellent relationship with in the B2B sector, and that you provide profits for the B2B sector, also for the agent or for the operator. And if this is considered, Europe has again also a great future, because Europe is a unique continent, and Europe offers things no other continent offers from a cultural city perspective, landscape and things. So there is a bright future, but the future will be more sensitive and slightly different.
So we need to learn and to train and to understand. Yes, certainly. So Rudy, well, another optimist, I'm sure. Look at his face. What is your take?
So the difficulty is when you are the last one in a row, everybody says such a great, smart thing. So I agree. So that is one. So another thing is that I'm also an optimist that we are more aware of our own stories, are more aware of our own value. We have to be more aware of it. But I think there is also a possibility to find new business models in a total different way than what we have now. So now as tourists is moving from A to B, but maybe we find, and when I think about it, we can find totally new business models in what we call tourism at this moment. So maybe we have tourism in different kinds of layers, maybe also digital wise. So we are building a new world has to innovate, but you can also create all kind of new interactions with each other, and also to create business models in it. Maybe one is in another country, the rest, the family is at home, and how can we create new business models out of this? For me, and I had also Corona, and not such a light one. So personally, it is a crisis, but in economically our way of looking at is a necessity to create something new. And a crisis is not an external factor, it is a factor what you didn't put in your own model. So now, because of external factors, you rethink your own model, and that's very, very good, I think. So think totally different at tourism, also about the word.
Yes, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. So today, October the 12th, is also the day when in Brussels we will have the European Tourism Conference, and where it seems that one of the results from a European perspective is that finally it looks like the European Union starts to create a tourism policy, which until now, of course, has been totally lacking. So nobody in the European Union is responsible really for tourism. There are some few people who made this their topic, but actually there's no commissaire for that. And so that is also on the institutional level. I think also I mentioned this over-optimistic approach of UWTO. We are the most resilient sector of tourism. That also on the institutional level that might change. But so I'm afraid we are coming to the end of the panel. But I think I'm happy to see that we all agree that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that it's not the headlights of an oncoming train, but it's a bright future, and that we all agree also that tourism will change not only in terms of more health and sanitation issues, but in the way we see traveling, and that there will be a more meeting between people become important, and more thematic travel and theme travel. And I think especially for the Chinese market, there is, as you all have been saying, and I completely agree, there are so many opportunities now for places without an Eiffel Tower. So for the smaller destinations, for if you get your story right and if you get your product right, that you can bring Chinese tourists at different times of the year and to different parts of the country. So because climate change and over tourism are still problems to be solved when the COVID-19 crisis is over, and the Chinese market is an important part of that. And in all the discussions we had in the last half year about the future of tourism, it was always talked about from a perspective of Western people and Western tourism, disregarding that in a few years, probably 1 out of 5 international tourists will be a Chinese, and maybe 1 out of 3 international tourists will be an Asian, so that we will not succeed in a sustainable tourism future if we don't take these with us and listen to what is their changed demand. So with this, I think we have to finish for today. Of course, the summit is going on until Friday. There's a lot more interesting things happening in the coming days. And as I said, on Friday, at the closing session, we will also try to answer some questions. So if you have any questions from this session, from other sessions, just let us know. And again, Berenice, Gazi, Richard, Rudy, thank you so much. We will work on this. I mentioned in my presentations at the beginning the program of advantage tourism, where we try, like in tennis, to say, okay, we are now at the point we have to make the next point to win. Anybody interested in this program, of course, we are happy to give further information on that. And with that, I wish that you all stay healthy or recover completely, or depending on your situation. And we wish all of us the bright future we all have in our minds. And with this, thank you all to everybody who spent the last hour listening to what we had to say. And that's it for the moment. And use the opportunities of the China Summit to interact with other participants in the fair part. And hopefully there have been 1 or 2 ideas which will help you with your business in the future. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.